I'm extremely aware that this channel does better when Conor McGregor is fighting. I'm also extremely aware that if you guys go and subscribe right now, the channel does better, and click the links in the description to subscribe to the Patreon and all my social medias. That would improve the channel. However, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about McGregor at the Bare Knuckle FC event, talking about retirement again, and this time it's more sincere. I think he would really love to come back and fight, right? And he said he was offered a fight for June. I'm unaware if that was with the UFC or Bare Knuckle. It was in Alcatraz, apparently. Or not in Alcatraz, in the location of Alcatraz. And he said he wasn't getting paid enough for it. It wasn't his worth. He said he's got, I think he's like 9 of the top 10 biggest pay-per-views in the UFC. And, you have to be getting paid a substantial amount of money as the biggest star in a sport, to come back. And he said it's going to be the biggest comeback in history of sports, and which it would be. Like, as I said in the start of this video, having Conor McGregor in the landscape of MMA is just massive. Like, it just improves the sport tenfold. It just brings more eyeballs. It's the type of fighter that my dad would talk to me about. My dad would be like, "Oh, do you see Conor McGregor's fighting this weekend?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's Irish, my dad's Irish. However, my mum would be like, my mum, who knows nothing about fighting, who knows nothing about why I choose to come out here and do this with my life, she would be like, "Oh, is that Conor McGregor fighting this weekend?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, he is, Mum. Yeah, do you want to watch it with me?" "Oh, maybe. You know what I mean? And it's he's the type of fighter that gets families around the telly at somebody's house, and you pay for the pay-per-view. And the pay-per-view model, I don't believe, will be around in the next 5 to 10 years, because streaming fights and streaming softwares are so high, And I think getting rid of pirated streams is very difficult. However, it would massively decrease if, for example, everyone's got Netflix. Put it on Netflix, put it on DAZN, put it on HBO, Discovery Plus, TNT Sport. Just a streaming service that, you pay monthly and you get everything with it, including the UFC for free. And McGregor is kind of like the last of the dying breed that will sell over 1 million pay-per-views. Everyone who would have done that came from the era where, yeah, let's pay to watch the fights tonight. And McGregor always sells pay-per-views, If I'm a huge fan of a fighter, I'm 100% going to buy their pay-per-view in support, because I just have like a moral obligation to the sport that I love. However, let's break down everything McGregor said. McGregor said he wants to be announced in the octagon or the ring as the notorious president of Ireland, and that's the main reason he wants to become the president of Ireland. It's not the best pitch when it comes to that, and he said, up until he was in the White House, he had so much intention of coming back, and he was stood in the White House, and he was talking on the biggest stage on the planet, the White House, with Mr. Trump. He was talking on the biggest stage about, how he's going to fix Ireland, the immigration issues, And he said that just lit something in him to where he wants that to be his focus. He's got a fire in his belly for that to be his purpose as of right now. And then he sat back and he said, look, he feels like he can't do any more. He's done everything he wants to do in fighting, so it would just be for the love of fighting he would come back. And it's on the back burner. And he said he doesn't want to rush his comeback. And I'm sure he hasn't. He's taken 4 years off as of July. There's definitely no rush, Conor. You're going to be 38 in July. You're almost 40, man. Like, come on, maybe one more fight, please. Look, do I think he fights again? What I think happens is, whatever will happen in 2025 is it'll be a few months down the line, and it will be announced that Conor McGregor has parted ways with the UFC for the first time in 10 years, or it'll be like 13 years, which means at some point McGregor will make his bare knuckle debut. I believe it will be against somebody that is a former MMA fighter, and I think it'll be Alvarez versus McGregor 2 bare knuckle at the end of this year, start of next year. I think parting ways with the UFC will be very difficult. We know how much the UFC love to hold people in contracts. However, McGregor has this in the back pocket of where he can say he believes he's done everything he can in mixed martial arts, right? The leg break is so significant, he can't kick. You can just say this type of shit. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be true. And you can say to Dana, you can literally say to him, look, I can't compete in this sport anymore. you can partner with me and like be part of like the broadcast and get you can own some of the rights to this fight night or whatever, and you can do it under the bare knuckle banner. McGregor's an owner of it. He can get Dana on board very easily. However, the UFC do hold people hostage. We've seen it in the past. We've seen a lot of it. It would be very, very difficult. However, I do not believe we see McGregor in the UFC again. That gives me goosebumps. That makes me feel like dying on the inside. However, you have to remember, McGregor became a world champion 10 years ago. And he never defended the belts. He fought Mayweather in 2017 and lost to Khabib October 2018, a year and a half later. Then came back a year and a half later and fought Cerrone. Then exactly 1 year later, he fought Poirier. And then 7 months later, he lost again to Poirier and broke his leg. And that's the last time we've seen him. You have to remember, this guy has not been at the peak of his game for 10 years. You know? And he's got so much money, he can very easily fund other passions. I'd love one more fight. I'd love to just cover one more fight of his, the build up, everything he says, the passion. Alvarez McGregor 2 is what to do in bare knuckle. The trick is getting out of the UFC's clutches. The UFC will not give up the right to match with McGregor. Potentially they will. If you retire from MMA, you're still contractually obliged to be in the UFC, to compete in the UFC if you return within 3 years. McGregor's not going to sit out for another 3 years and be out for 6-7 years of competition and just to fight in bare knuckle and get severely injured, I think. The reason he would fight in bare knuckle is to boost his company. And, you know, right now he's so famous, he's so rich, he's literally got a nation behind him in Ireland. There's a big chunk of Ireland that want him to run for the president. The man is a fighter. The man is actually tough as nails. He's a fighter. He loves to fight. He's also, contrary to popular belief, one of the most intelligent men we've seen in this space in terms of marketing and understanding his capabilities, his body. That we've seen how capable he was of winning fights when he was coming up, and now I think he knows he's extremely capable of going out there and getting, like, losing badly. You know, I do think there's another way he comes back, and I do believe this is the only other viable option, and it would have to happen at the start of 2026, and it's a very big maybe. Paddy Pimblett goes out there and beats Michael Chandler. Somehow he gets a title shot next, or a title shot contender fight, wins the belt, start of 2026, and McGregor versus Pimblett. McGregor's redemption, the biggest comeback ever to become a world champion again before he calls it quits. Paddy Pimblett, no one thought he would become a world champion, and he goes out there and does it. In a stadium within the UK, Croke Park. McGregor's always wanted to sell that out. And also, McGregor still has aspirations, I believe. I mean, Croke Park in Ireland, McGregor's always said he would love to sell it out, but the UFC don't like doing stadium shows because it's outside. They're too unpredictable. You can do that with bare knuckle. If you're an owner at bare knuckle, you can say, we're going Croke Park this day. You know, there's a lot more opportunities for him to achieve dreams and sell out arenas. And bare knuckle is something everyone respects. You know, if McGregor went and boxed again, it's like, oh, he's not a boxer. Bare knuckle fighting, he's an owner of it. It's so entertaining. I watched a bare knuckle event. I watched them when they went to Marbella, Spain. I watched the full event. It was so entertaining, first fight to last, because jabs cut people open. People are getting knocked out it's just a different form of fighting. It's absolutely so fast paced. You start in a little circle in the middle of the bull ring. Absolutely incredible, so entertaining, and I think bare knuckle fighting is going to grow exponentially over the next 5 to 10 years. And if McGregor has a fight in Croke Park under bare knuckle, imagine the bare knuckle banner in Dublin. It would just be one of the biggest things in history, and it would be the most entertaining event probably in Irish combat history within the country. You know, we've got Katie Taylor, phenomenal female boxer, fighting Serrano for the 3rd time. She's already beaten her twice. The last fight was very close, could have been a draw. That's happening. That's amazing. Doesn't have the same buzz. You know, McGregor is just a character. He's fun. He's the most famous Irish person on the planet right now. What do you guys think? I don't think we see him back in the UFC though. an ideal situation is McGregor Pimblett for the lightweight belt. If Pimblett gets up there, that's like a dream fight scenario. That would be one of the biggest fight weeks ever. You know, the banter they would have. You know, Pimblett's bigger than him. It would be awesome. It would be absolutely awesome. But the guy's been done for so many years now. We've seen it. We've seen the coke, the court cases, the craziness that he brings. He's so entertaining. He's so famous and so entertaining. But the guy doesn't care as much anymore. You know, there was a few years where all he would talk about was getting back in there, and then the last year or so, he doesn't talk about it that much anymore. He doesn't even mention it. And right now he's like, you know, I don't feel like I need to do any more in the sport, and I've got my passions somewhere else right now. That's not a good sign. You know, on the come up, your passion is martial arts. You're so just wanting to grow and learn, and then, yeah, man, I don't know. It's a worry. What do you guys think? I just want him back. He's gone. He is dead. Old Conor is dead. Like, he's dead. You know, Dana White's going to hold him hostage. You know, the biggest star in combat sports. I would hold him hostage. If he ever was to make a return, put him against Paddy Pimblett in a pay-per-view main event. And I'm sad. Hopefully he comes back. I love McGregor. But everyone knows that ship has sailed, and now he's kind of acknowledging it as well. It's kind of like a soft acknowledgement, but he is acknowledging it, saying his passions are elsewhere. You know, he's never said anything like that before, but it is what it is.